At 13:46 on July 7, 2023, a man later identified as Melvin Rhodes entered the Gilmore County Police Department building, located in a municipal complex in central Missouri. Internal logs placed him at the north entrance. He was wearing a military-style jacket and ballistic vest. In his hands was a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. He did not make verbal threats or demands upon entry. Rhodes proceeded past the reception desk without deviating. A civilian staff member activated a silent alarm after observing the firearm. An officer in the corridor made a brief attempt to intercept, then stepped back upon assessing the threat. The officer used radio to report, "There's an armed man inside," moving towards the offices. Internal system data shows 5 minutes passed between Rhodes's entry and the first gunshot. The building's layout includes administrative offices, operations, and the records corridor. Rhodes continued straight, bypassing administrative personnel. At 13:51, a single gunshot was recorded. 15 seconds later, a second discharge followed. A voice message over the internal intercom stated, "2 on the floor. 1 is injured. 1 is dead." The source of the call was traced to the supervisor's desk in the operations section. The emergency response unit arrived 6 minutes later. By that time, Rhodes had stopped moving. The weapon was on the floor approximately 3 feet from him. He stood with both hands raised and followed verbal instructions. He was taken into custody without resistance. During processing, Rhodes remained silent. A search of his person revealed a flash drive in the left chest pocket of his jacket. A note was taped to the drive. "Listen to this, then decide who the culprit is." Rhodes was placed in a secure holding cell and later transferred to Gilmore County Jail under high security conditions. Identification was verified via Missouri driver's license and military records. He was 47 years old, a Marine Corps veteran with deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan between 2003 and 2011. He had no criminal history. Employment records listed his position as a logistics coordinator for a regional shipping firm in Osceola, Missouri. Visitor logs confirmed Rhodes had been to the police station 3 times in the prior 3 weeks. Each visit was related to a sexual assault complaint filed by his daughter, Jasmine Rhodes, on June 19. Records indicate he was referred to intake personnel and clerical staff, but did not meet directly with supervising officers. No case file was initiated at that stage. Statements collected from officers and staff described Rhodes' behavior on July 7 as silent and methodical. No verbal threats were made. Sergeant Thomas Eilert later noted, "He walked with purpose. He wasn't shouting. No emotion. Just walked in, acted, and stopped." The firearm was a Mossberg 590 shotgun, registered to Rhodes and legally purchased in 2015. Ballistics analysis confirmed it had been discharged twice. Shells recovered at the scene were consistent with 00 buckshot. Jasmine Rhodes, 19 years old, a student at Ridgefield Community College, entered the Gilmore County Police Department on June 19, 2023, at 9:14 a.m., submitted a formal complaint of sexual assault. Her intake form, later retrieved from internal records, listed the type of offense as rape involving multiple unidentified suspects. In her verbal and written statements, Jasmine indicated that the incident took place on the night of June 17 to 18 at a private residence located approximately 8 miles outside the city limits. She had been invited by a fellow student, whose identity she did not specify. The gathering was described as a party with between 15 to 20 attendees, most of them unknown to her. Jasmine stated that she believed 3 male individuals were involved in the assault. She described the sequence as coordinated. She was not able to recall the full duration or location of the act, but cited waking up in an upstairs bedroom, partially clothed, with physical discomfort and disorientation. She left the house shortly afterward without informing others present. On June 18, she sought medical attention at Ridgefield Urgent Care. The attending physician documented bruises on her upper arms and thighs, and noted abrasions consistent with non-consensual intercourse. A toxicology screening showed traces of ethanol and a sedative compound, later identified as zopiclone. The clinic forwarded the results to the Gilmore County Police Department on June 19 at 10:27, using the standard electronic handover system. Officer Brian Lacey, a senior intake official at the department, conducted the interview with Jasmine. He followed the department's standard questionnaire for sexual assault cases, but did not generate a report requesting investigative action. According to internal workflow logs, no case number was created, and the file remained in a pending status marked incomplete, verification required. The medical documentation was archived, but not forwarded to detectives or case officers. Jasmine returned to the department on June 21 at 11:52. In her second appearance, she provided a new piece of information. She had recognized one of the alleged assailants. She identified him as Joshua Lacey, approximately 22 years old, whom she had seen earlier that day in the parking lot of the Ridgefield College cafeteria. She stated that she was absolutely sure of his involvement and insisted that he had been one of the participants during the incident. Officer Lacey, who again handled her intake, made brief notations in her file. Subject claims recognition. Will verify. No further entries were recorded under her file number following that comment. No follow-up interview was conducted, and no supplementary report was filed under the department's incident tracking system. The name Joshua Lacey was not entered into any investigative database. On June 22, Melvin Rhodes arrived at the Gilmore County Police Department at approximately 10:10. According to the station logbook, he requested a meeting with a supervising officer to inquire about the status of his daughter's complaint. The front desk clerk advised him that the matter was under internal review. Rhodes asked to speak with the officer in charge of the case, but was told that no case had yet been officially opened. He was informed that preliminary materials were still being assessed. A recorded exchange between Rhodes and a department employee at the front desk confirms that he was told, quote, "Sometimes it's better to leave things as they are. These cases are hard to move forward unless you've got clear evidence." Rhodes asked if any contact had been made with the individuals mentioned by his daughter. The response was negative. No notes, emails, or memos exist indicating that the identification of Joshua Lacey was circulated to investigative staff. There is no indication of an official denial or closure of the complaint. Subsequent interviews with department staff conducted after July 7 confirmed that standard procedures for cases of this type were not followed. A peer officer stated under internal review, "Normally when there's a positive ID, it gets kicked to detectives. That didn't happen here." Another staff member noted that Officer Lacey had discretionary authority on intake, including whether to move a complaint forward. On June 24, 2023, Jasmine Rhodes, 19, was scheduled to meet a friend at Westfield Mall in Gilmore, Missouri. She did not arrive at the designated location. Her last known message was sent at 14:12, confirming her arrival and stating, "At entrance, near North Lot." Surveillance footage from the mall's parking structure, reviewed on July 2 by the investigative team, showed Jasmine entering the facility from the north side at 14:09. At 14:016, she was seen standing near a row of parked vehicles. At 14:18, she approached and entered a white four-door sedan. The vehicle exited the parking lot at 14:21. No additional footage of the vehicle was captured by external traffic or highway monitoring systems due to the absence of automatic license plate recognition coverage in that area. The driver was not identified at the time. Jasmine's mother, Doreen Rhodes, filed a missing person report at 18:40 on June 24. She stated that her daughter was not answering calls or messages and had failed to return home. The intake record shows that the report was logged under routine priority adult. No immediate action was taken by the Gilmore County Police Department beyond registering the report in the standard system. The formal initiation of the missing person investigation occurred on June 26 at 7:53, 36 hours after the initial report. Officer Melanie Kraft, assigned to the case at that time, submitted a request for telecommunications data, social media access, and GPS location history for Jasmine's mobile phone. The request was marked urgent, but delayed due to procedural backlog. Data was not received until June 28. On July 1 at 6:42, a maintenance worker for the Gilmore Industrial Properties Authority reported the presence of a body in a fenced, disused warehouse lot on the east side of the county. Police units arrived at 7:05. The body was confirmed to be female, matching the description of Jasmine Rhodes. Personal identification, including a student ID card, was found in the victim's bag nearby. The location had not been in active use since 2019 and had no operational lighting or camera systems. The autopsy was conducted at the Gilmore County Medical Examiner's office later that day. The report listed the cause of death as asphyxiation due to manual strangulation. Additional findings included blunt force trauma to the left side of the jaw, bruises on the forearms, and torn fingernails on both hands. Toxicology results showed the presence of zopiclone, a non-prescribed sedative, in her bloodstream. The estimated time of death was placed between 1800 and 2200 on June 24, approximately 3 to 7 hours after she was last seen entering the white sedan. The investigation into the identity of the driver yielded no results. No nearby businesses had functioning surveillance equipment pointed toward the access road. No witnesses reported seeing Jasmine after her departure from the mall. Her phone had been switched off or disabled at 14:31, less than 15 minutes after entering the vehicle. Review of Jasmine's case file showed that her earlier statements regarding sexual assault had not been cross-referenced with the missing person report. No internal alerts or connections were made within the department's case tracking system. Her file remained in inactive status. The missing person case and the sexual assault complaint were handled separately by different personnel. Melvin Rhodes did not return to the police department following his June 22 visit. No further inquiries or follow-ups were made on his part. Phone records and activity logs collected during the post-incident investigation indicated that, beginning on June 25, his movements occurred exclusively at night. He ceased regular contact with his workplace, provided no formal resignation, and was not reachable during normal hours. His call records showed contact with only 3 numbers during this time. One belonging to a retired military associate in Illinois, one to a prepaid number with no subscriber data, and one to a landline later confirmed as his residence. All other communication ceased. Bank activity showed no large withdrawals, transfers, or irregular purchases. He made minimal financial movements, limited to gasoline and small transactions at local stores. His digital footprint was otherwise reduced to basic utility use and passive online browsing. On July 5, 2023, at approximately 6:38 a.m., the body of Joshua Lacey, 22 years old, was discovered in a vacant lot behind the Ridgeview Golf Course on the northern edge of Gilmore County, Missouri. A groundskeeper reported the finding after observing a person lying near a service path outside the designated property line. Emergency responders arrived on scene at 6:53 a.m. Lacey was declared deceased at 7:06 a.m. The initial examination indicated a single gunshot wound to the chest. The entry point was central thoracic, no exit wound. Death was assessed to have occurred at least 4 hours earlier. No personal belongings had been removed. Identification was confirmed via a state-issued ID card found in the victim's wallet. The area where the body was located was accessible by foot from a parking area on the rear side of the golf facility. Forensic survey of the scene recovered one spent 12-gauge shotgun shell approximately 8 meters from the body. Ballistic analysis conducted later that day confirmed that the ammunition type matched the same class of .00 buckshot used in the incident on July 7. A nearby camera mounted to the side of a maintenance shed captured a partial video segment at 2:43. The footage showed a male individual exiting the wooded area on foot, heading east. The image resolution was insufficient to allow positive identification. The individual was not carrying any visible item and did not appear to be running. The clothing worn was consistent with dark-colored outerwear. No vehicle was recorded entering or leaving the site during the relevant time period. The investigation into Lacey's murder was opened under a separate file number by the Gilmore County Sheriff's Office. While the case was officially treated as an isolated homicide, internal notes from the initial review team indicated that a single motive was under consideration. Retaliatory action linked to the death of Jasmine Rhodes, whose case remained unresolved and administratively inactive. Joshua Lacey had no documented criminal record. Employment history showed part-time work at a construction supply warehouse. He had been a student at Ridgefield Community College, but was not enrolled in the summer term. His address was a shared residence with family in East Gilmore. The last known sighting of Lacey was recorded on July 4 at 17:20 by an ATM camera at a fuel station near his home. The shell casing recovered at the scene was submitted for comparison against the weapon used by Melvin Rhodes in the shooting at the police station 2 days later. On July 10, forensic reports confirmed that both the casing found near Joshua Lacey's body and the 2 shells used during the July 7 attack were fired from the same weapon, a Mossberg 590 shotgun registered to Rhodes. This information was not disclosed publicly at the time. Rhodes' movements between June 25 and July 7 remained limited, based on cell tower data, vehicle GPS, and physical surveillance conducted after the police station incident. He was recorded at various times near the county administrative buildings, including the Gilmore Police Department and the adjacent Records Division. Camera footage showed him walking the perimeter areas at night between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on multiple dates. He did not attempt to enter the facilities. Personnel assigned to review Rhodes's post-disappearance behavior noted the absence of investigative activity. He did not contact witnesses, engage with law enforcement, or access public records. Instead, he remained within a narrow perimeter near municipal properties and government offices. On July 4, a parked vehicle registered to Rhodes was logged by a city enforcement officer near the south entrance of the police department. The vehicle remained stationary for over 3 hours, with no parking violation issued due to the lot's unrestricted access during overnight hours. After the discovery of Joshua Lacey's body, investigators reviewed the status of Jasmine Rhodes's complaint. They found no connection between her original file and the homicide case. The name Lacey was not cross-referenced in either direction. On the morning of July 7, 2023, at 13:46, Melvin Rhodes entered the Gilmore County Police Department building through the north public entrance. He was wearing a military-style jacket and a ballistic vest. In his hands was a legally owned Mossberg 590 shotgun. He was not masked. He issued no verbal threats, displayed no agitation, and made no demands. The reception clerk activated the silent alarm at 13:47. 2 uniformed officers stationed inside the lobby attempted to engage. According to internal communications, one officer issued 2 verbal commands to stop. Rhodes did not comply, but did not accelerate his pace or alter his route. Rhodes passed through 2 interior checkpoints. Both were unstaffed at the time due to a personnel shift change. Surveillance footage and internal logs confirmed he moved without interference along the central corridor that connects administrative offices to the operations and records divisions. His route was direct. At 13:51, the first gunshot was recorded by the department's internal monitoring system. The discharge occurred inside an individual office within the operations section. Less than 15 seconds later, a second gunshot was recorded at the entrance to the records archive. Emergency alert protocols were activated at 13:52, and the building was placed under partial lockdown. 2 individuals were found at the scene. One, later identified as Officer Brian Lacey, was pronounced dead at the scene with a fatal gunshot wound to the upper chest. The second, Officer Keegan Lowell, sustained a gunshot wound to the left thigh. He was transported to Gilmore Regional Medical Center and survived following surgery. The total time between Rhodes's entry and detainment was approximately 7 minutes. Following the second discharge, Rhodes placed the shotgun on the floor and raised his hands. He remained standing until approached by 2 officers from the Emergency Response Unit. He complied fully with arrest procedures and was handcuffed at 13:56. No force was used. No resistance was reported. Rhodes made no verbal statements during his detainment. He was transferred to a secure holding cell by 14:10. A preliminary search found no secondary weapons or contraband. The Mossberg 590 was recovered with 2 spent shells in the chamber and 4 remaining in the magazine. The weapon was confirmed to be the same shotgun used in the July 5 homicide of Joshua Lacey. The identity of the deceased, Brian Lacey, was confirmed at 8:45 the following day through departmental personnel records and visual identification by supervisory staff. Lacey was 56 years old, a senior officer, and had served at the Gilmore County Police Department for over 2 decades. He was also the father of Joshua Lacey. Review of departmental intake records established that Brian Lacey was the officer who received Jasmine Rhodes' initial rape complaint on June 19 and handled her follow-up appearance on June 21. The file had not been forwarded to the investigative unit. No case number had been generated. An internal review confirmed that Jasmine's identification of Joshua Lacey was handwritten but had not been entered into the electronic case management system. The information remained in a side folder marked pending verification. Personnel interviewed after the incident confirmed that Brian Lacey had not initiated any follow-up on the complaint, nor had he made referrals to external units. There were no entries indicating contact with the named suspect or steps to corroborate Jasmine's account. The complaint remained in inactive status until her disappearance and death. Rhodes remained silent throughout the post-arrest booking process. He declined to answer preliminary questions and did not request legal representation during the first 24 hours. No written statement was provided. The trial of Melvin Rhodes began on October 17, 2023, at the Gilmore County Criminal Court. He was charged with 2 counts: first-degree murder and attempted murder involving a law enforcement officer. The charges were based on the events of July 7 at the Gilmore County Police Department and the shooting death of Joshua Lacey on July 5. Due to the direct involvement of department personnel, the investigation and prosecution were handled by the Missouri State Attorney's Office, with the Gilmore County Sheriff's Office providing case support. Upon arrest, Rhodes declined to offer any official statement. His defense was constructed primarily from the materials recovered at the time of his detainment. These included a flash drive labeled "Listen to this, then decide who the culprit is." The contents of the device were admitted into evidence during the pre-trial phase. The drive contained several documents and media files. Among them was an audio recording of Jasmine Rhodes. In the recording, her voice was identified through voice sample comparison with known records. She described the events that had occurred at the party on June 17. She stated, "They gave me something. I don't know what it was. I didn't feel anything at first. Then I couldn't move. One of them is a policeman. And so is his father." She did not specify names but expressed fear of retaliation and disbelief that her complaint would be taken seriously. In addition to the audio file, the flash drive included a list of names and nicknames mentioned by Jasmine during prior conversations, screenshots of text messages between Jasmine and friends discussing the night of the incident, timestamps of her visits to the Gilmore County Police Department, a printed copy of her original written statement dated June 19, which contained a handwritten edition with the name Joshua Lacey, a photograph of Joshua Lacey, captured from a social media profile. These materials were cross-referenced during the trial. The prosecution acknowledged that the name Joshua Lacey had been entered into the original complaint, but was removed from the electronic file during the intake process. Testimony from the Gilmore County Police Department's internal case administrator confirmed that the removal occurred during the initial entry stage by the receiving officer. The officer responsible for Jasmine's intake was identified as Brian Lacey. Departmental records confirmed that he held supervisory authority over his subordinates and had discretion over intake classification. His actions were reviewed during a closed session. It was confirmed that he failed to forward the complaint to the investigations unit, failed to assign a case number, and omitted the suspect identification in the formal record. No administrative response had occurred prior to the shooting. The prosecution did not dispute that Rhodes acted with intent when he carried out the shootings. However, after presentation of all materials, including the timeline of events and the documented failures in the handling of Jasmine's case, the charge of first-degree murder was reconsidered. Psychological evaluation ordered by the court concluded that Rhodes was not suffering from a diagnosable mental illness, but had acted under an intense and prolonged state of psycho-emotional disturbance, directly linked to a repeated institutional failure to protect his daughter and acknowledge her report. Following deliberation, the court reclassified the charges. The count of first-degree murder was amended to murder committed under conditions of severe emotional disturbance with demonstrated systemic negligence. The legal classification aligned with Missouri revised statute, allowing for reduced sentencing under exceptional conditions not involving premeditated concealment or sustained flight. The final sentence, delivered on November 9, 2023, was 10 years of incarceration with eligibility for parole after 5 years. The court did not impose additional sentencing for the possession of an unregistered firearm, as the weapon used had been legally purchased and registered in Rhodes's name. The attempted murder charge was retained but merged into the sentencing structure due to the context of the case. The court declined to classify the actions of the Gilmore County Police Department as criminal misconduct. However, the judge ordered a formal administrative audit into the department's intake procedures, supervisory oversight, and complaint processing system. The audit was to be conducted by the Missouri Division of Public Safety, with cooperation from the county sheriff's office. Rhodes was transferred to the Missouri State Correctional Facility on November 14, 2023, to serve his sentence under standard security conditions. As of the final filing date, the administrative audit of the Gilmore County Police Department remained in progress.